Assalamu alaikum, my friends. Are you ready to build something totally incredible together? Let's do this. Assalamu alaikum, my friends. Miraj Mohideen here. We are talking about the purpose of life with our esteemed professor, Dr. Jeffery Lang, who was helping us through this equation that he came up with many years ago. And why am I holding a saw today? Well, we are building something together, and this saw has a lot to do with what we are talking about here. Let's recap where we've been so far, like we do at the beginning of every episode here. Let's take a look and see where we're at, okay? First, we have ground rules, which we talk about every single time when it comes to the purpose of life, and specifically the story of Adam, is that God is creating man in a positive role, so thumbs up. God is completely aware of his plan. There's no surprises in this. And finally, God is reminding the angels of man's potential for greatness. So we can be really not just positive, but like amazing to our highest version of ourselves. So there is a plan here. It's not random. That's our like I said here, these are our ground rules for this hypothesis, this equation that Dr. Lang is working on. Now, so far, what we've covered in the first few parts is, in the beginning of the talk, he talked about his childhood, and that was basically the whole point of that was to ask the question, why is there suffering? Because he suffered at the hands of his father, and ultimately he could not reconcile the amount of evil and suffering in the world with there also being a benevolent God. That was a question of suffering, right? And so that led him to atheism. So this first section of the talk is his journey to atheism. The second section of his talk is when he gets into the Qur'an for the first time and comes across the story of Adam. And in the story of Adam, three very salient things stick out to him. The story, first of all, like we talked about in previous episodes, is totally different than the biblical story, right? In the Qur'anic story, God is loving and he is rooting for mankind and he is putting him there for a reason, not as this, endless, infinite punishment for Adam and Eve and all of their descendants. It's a completely different story, and God's feelings towards mankind is very different than what you see in the Bible. Okay, so the three main things that we got from the story through Dr. Lang was this importance of intellect. Remember, God taught him the names. Also, morality, the difference between the angels and Satan, good and evil, the capacity to do what? To choose. And we talked about the fact that the tree, right? Don't go near this tree. It was really about exercising choice more than what just doing the bad thing was. And in the Qur'an, that is referred to as a slip. If any of this stuff kind of seems a little bit remote for you, feel free to go ahead and watch the previous episodes to get up to speed. But this is kind of where we were at. And then the last 2 or 3 talks, we talked about how Dr. Lang extracted the 3 most important things from the beginning of this. And what were those? Reason, choice, and suffering. He's like, I focused on these 3 things because I'm trying to figure out what do these 3 things have to do with my purpose in life, if it actually does add up to a meaningful equation, okay? Now, I pulled out 3 things for you guys just to kind of make this kind of clear here, okay? I have 3 things here. I pulled it out of my garage. I have a ruler, okay? This ruler, we're going to say, represents reason, okay? You can do things with it, you can measure with it, and so forth. It requires intellect. So you have a ruler, okay? Then what do we have? I have 3 pieces of wood. One is plywood, one I think is teak, and one is a piece of hardwood maple, okay? I like woodworking, so I have this stuff lying around here. We have 3 pieces of wood right here, okay? This represents choice. You can choose to use what you want. Okay, and then the third thing that we have here, let me pull this up here so you guys can see it, right, is suffering, right? We have a saw. So imagine if you were asked to, you came into a room and they're like, hey, get to work. And all you see on the table is these 3 categories. You have a ruler, you have pieces of wood, and you have a saw, okay? What do you do with that? Where do you go with that? Well, we know we're in the right neighborhood if we're thinking, we have to build something, right? So at least we know we're not cooking today, we're building, right? So just looking at this stuff gives you a sense of like, okay, I know we're in the category of building something, but what do you want me to build? I don't know. Am I supposed to build a birdhouse? Do you want me to build I don't know, what else could you build? A birdhouse? You could build a table. You may build a chair. Like, what do you want me to build with this stuff? And then which wood am I supposed to use? What am I supposed to choose? What am I not? Should I use plywood? Is that better? Or should I use a solid wood? Or will that warp? Should I use something more stable? I don't know what to do. And that's where we're at right now, okay? Dr. Lang is saying, I have found 3 things that really stick out to me. Yes, there are other things like glue and nails and screws, but these 3 seem to really kind of capture my attention, specifically because these are the very 3 things, reason, choice, and suffering, that make people leave faith, right? Reason, people can over-intellectualize and think their way out of an existence of God. A lot of people leave because of their intellect, right? Choice, people choose something completely different. Why give us choice? Because when you give us choice, we can choose to be evil. And then suffering, that's the big one. When people suffer, they question God. Why would you do this to me if you're a really good God? And they leave religion. And yet he's like, how can these 3 things lead you to faith? And so he says, what does the Qur'an have to say about reason, choice, and suffering? And then in that part of the talk, he said, does the Quran say that we should use our reason or turn it off? And we saw so many verses in the Quran that said, check, use reason. Absolutely, those who think, those who ponder, and so forth. Okay, does the Quran emphasize that we have free will and choice? Check, there's no compulsion in religion. You can do what you want. It's up to you to choose, right? Okay, what about suffering, the big one? Do we have to suffer? What does the Quran say? Check. There will be suffering. Man was created in toil. It is unavoidable. God is saying, do you think that you won't be tested like those generations that came before? And the prophets themselves suffered the most. So wait a second, is suffering a bad thing that to be avoided? Or suffering a necessary thing that needs to be embraced, right? Just like the saw. We said the saw is suffering. Yeah, you know what? To use a saw, it takes effort. Should we avoid it? Creates sawdust and heat and it's messy. Does that mean we should avoid it? Or is it a necessary tool to build something powerful? The Quran is suggesting that, well, I'm not going to tell you, but think about it, okay? So we have these 3 things here. We have 3 things here. And now we got to figure out, okay, well, now that we've established this, what's the purpose of life? And this is where I thought his brilliance starts really coming through. And you see the mathematician in him. Because, okay, reason, choice, suffering. What do we do with that? And what he is saying is, okay, you have to add something to this to come up with the purpose of life here. It's like an equation. So let's just draw out the rest of the equation right here. Okay. Reason, let's go back. Reason, choice, and suffering. That's one. These are some ingredients here. Okay, but if you don't give me the plans about what I need to build, I don't know what to build and if I'm supposed to build anything at all. So he doesn't know what do you do with these 2 here. What do you add to it that is going to give you some final purpose, some finished product? Okay. Now, if it were me, I probably wouldn't even gotten this far in my discovery of the Quran and so forth. I know I wouldn't have because I hadn't until I had listened to Dr. Lang's lecture. I think a lot of us, see what you're seeing here is just like a basic equation, right? We're seeing A, right, plus B equals what? C, right? Let's draw it a little lower so you guys can see that. Okay. And what I think is so fascinating is that most of us would just be like, oh, cover this up, A plus B. Well, what is B? What is B? How do you solve for B? And then once we get B, we can say A plus B equals C. Well, Dr. Lang, remember what Dr. Lang is? What is he? He is a math professor of algebraic geometry. Let's do a little bit of algebra right here. So what he does is he says, okay, look, I have A, or maybe this is A. These 3 things are here, check, check, and check, okay? I don't know what B is right now. If I can't figure out B, can I at least figure out C? Because if I can figure out C, then what? I can go back and figure out what B is, right? Remember algebra, right? We subtracted here. So if we want to figure out what this is, C minus A equals B. And that is where he is going right now. So what he is going to do is he is going to kind of just stop with this side of the equation. And he's going to ask the question in this episode, is there a purpose in life? Does God say that there is a purpose in life? And if there is a purpose, meaning there is a definite answer, then maybe once we figure out what that purpose is, we can go back and figure out what are the necessary ingredients that give meaning to this idea of reason, choice, and suffering. That makes sense. I'm going to say that one more time. Instead of moving forward like this, Dr. Lang is saying, look, I know this is important, reason, choice, and suffering. I just don't know why it's important. And to me, it seems counterintuitive that you would use these three tools, right, to get to purpose in life. But the Quran is saying that this is important. Is the Quran saying anything else here in B? I'm not sure yet. I don't even know what to look for right now. Well, then let's look at C. Is the Quran saying anything about a general purpose in life, what you're supposed to be working towards? And so today's episode is his discovery of what he finds out. Does the Quran say there is, in fact, a purpose? Forget about the fact of what that is. Let's just figure out today if the Quran says there is a purpose. So that is what we are going to do in this episode. And I'm going to let Dr. Lang take it from here as he goes on this very beautiful journey figuring out if the Quran says there is an explicit purpose in life.
Definitely the Quran emphasizes these three elements in the human drama. But as I read through it, I couldn't see how it all fit together. I mean, why didn't God just... Why? Why do we have to experience these? What purpose do they play? Just pop us in the head, beam us up, I thought. Well, one thing, like I mentioned before, the Quran will repeatedly emphasize that we're here to grow and to learn. And I'll give you 4 or 5 quick verses because I know you're tired. It says, Our Lord, and raise up in their midst a messenger from among them, who shall recite unto them your signs, and that shall teach them the book and the wisdom, and who shall cause them to grow. We have to learn wisdom in the book, and Revelation in particular, and who shall cause us to grow. And we have sent among you of yourselves a messenger to recite our signs to you and to cause you to grow. Truly God was gracious to the believers, this is in the 3rd Surah, when he raised up from among them a messenger from themselves to recite his signs to them and to cause them to grow. It is he who has sent among you who has sent among the unlettered people a messenger from among them to recite his signs and to cause them to grow. These are all distinct references. Just 2 more. There are many more. And the soul and that which breathed into it, its immorality and its God consciousness. He is indeed successful who causes it to grow. And he is indeed a failure who stunts it. And in the 92nd Surah, Surah Al-Layl, it says, Far removed from it will be the righteous who give his wealth that he may grow. So the purpose somehow is to grow. We're in a growing, learning, developing experience. We weren't just created when we came into the world. This is actually a stage of our creation. Just as our development in the womb was a stage in our creation, our essential stage in our physical creation, this is an essential stage in our personality creation, in the creation of our real being. That which we take into the next life, our essential selves. We've gone from the physical creation in the womb, primarily physical, now to the human creation, the personality creation in this stage. I thought maybe I'm, projecting my own neurosis into the scripture. Maybe it doesn't really emphasize that life has a purpose. But time and time again, I would find it does. For example, just quickly it says, those who remember God standing and sitting and lying down and reflect upon the creations of the heaven and earth and say, Our Lord, you did not create all this in vain. You did not create all this in purpose. Just when I was starting to think, maybe the Quran really doesn't state a purpose of life. It really doesn't mean there's a real purpose of life. Maybe I'm reading into it something that is there. I would come upon verses like that would force me to just read a little further, make me think, well, maybe it's just around the corner. We have not created the heaven and the earth and whatever is between them in play. If we wished to take a sport, we could have done it by ourselves, if we were to do that at all. God doesn't create to satisfy his whims or fancies or entertain himself. Do you think that we created you purposely and that you will not be returned to us? It says in the 23rd Surah, the true sovereign is too exalted above that. In the 44th Surah, we did not create the heavens and earth and all that is between them in play. That serves a purpose.
Okay, so what a deep dive. And you guys are seeing some of the heart of the Meccan surahs of the Qur'an, like the earliest revelation. Very beautiful, important stuff. And we tend to, I shouldn't speak for you guys. I tend to flip right through all that stuff. Okay, were you not created for this? Do you think you were just created for fun? We didn't create the heavens and earth and all in between merely for fun. Do you think this world is just play? These are just verses we say all the time. And it's like, yeah, okay. What does that mean? God is saying there's purpose to your life. This is not just a game. There's something real here. And Dr. Jeffery Lang is taking his time, really marinating on these verses and coming to the realization, see, remember right here, is there purpose? Question mark. What Dr. Lang is saying is, yes, there is a purpose. God is explicitly clear about the fact that there is a purpose in life. What is the purpose in life? Well, that's for the next episode. Right now, what we've established is check, there is a purpose. Now, moving forward, we're going to figure out what is this purpose in life? And if we can narrow this down and get an exact value for C, and we know A, then maybe we can solve for B, which is the missing puzzle piece to the entire purpose of life and how to get there. So, we understand that the purpose is to grow. He said that many times. Okay, so the purpose somehow is to grow. We are growing, learning, developing beings. Grow into what? Grow for what? And that's what we're going to talk about in the next episode is what is the specifics of the purpose that is being laid out in the Qur'an. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this equation here. It's only getting better, I'm telling you. See, the beginning was interesting when we talked about his childhood and the story of Adam, and I told you at that point, it's only going to get better from here. I'm telling you right now, this is like my favorite part of his talk, because now you will see the genius of Dr. Jeffery Lang come to life here, okay? So anyway, stick around with me. Let me know your comments in the section below. I love reading your comments, guys. Thanks so much for sharing with me. And get ready to build something. Get ready to build something amazing here, okay? Can't wait to see you guys in the next episode. I will see you guys soon. Assalamu alaikum.